Good morning, Democrats. You ready to roll? Hey, folks, what an honor to be here. Let's give it up for your great chairman, Raymond Buckley. Don't get off quite yet, Raymond. Thank you for your great work. Thank you for your leadership, Raymond. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your passion. You've been kicking butt here. We're so excited to work with you. We're so excited to contribute with you. And folks, every one of your elected officials is fighting for you, fighting for a better New Hampshire. Thank you so much. So much success in 2017. One of my favorite moments was when Mayor Craig became Mayor Craig, and we were so happy to invest in that. In 2018, you virtually ran the table thanks to your leadership, re-electing Annie Custer, helping Chris Pappas become the first openly gay representative from this great state. And folks, you have two fantastic United States senators, women leading the way in Washington. Maggie Hassan and Jeanne Shaheen. And New Hampshire is Shaheen country, folks. New Hampshire is Shaheen country. New Hampshire is Shaheen country. And folks, we're going to say goodbye to Chris Sununu in 2020, and we're going to re-elect Jeanne Shaheen. You know, here's what happened. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, someone came to my office and said one of Trump's crooked cronies was thinking about running for the United States Senate in New Hampshire. And my first question was, which crooked crony? You gotta narrow the field. You gotta give me a little more granularity. And when I heard it was Corey Lewandowski, oh my goodness. Folks, let's set the record straight. This person has spent every single minute since Trump was elected cashing in on the Trump presidency by selling access to the highest bidder. Since Trump took office, here are his clients. He's advocated on behalf of predatory payday lenders. These are the folks who charge you 30, 40% interest. He's advocated on behalf of big oil. He's advocated, not surprisingly, on behalf of foreign interests. Don't forget, this was campaign manager for Donald Trump when this presidential candidate was calling Mexicans rapists and drug dealers. He was the campaign manager when Trump's associates were in touch with the Russian agents. He was the campaign manager when Trump was talking about the Muslim ban. He was the closest advisor to this president when he has been tearing apart the fabric of America. He would end protections for people with pre-existing conditions. He's in the pocket of the pharmaceutical industry. He would go after women's reproductive rights. He was even a close advisor to this president when Trump called New Hampshire, and I quote, and you remember this, a drug-infested den. That's what Corey Lewandowski was talking about. The infestation is not in New Hampshire, it's in your heart, Mr. Lewandowski. And folks, you know, I think the New Hampshire union leader may have said it best when they said a random write-in candidate would be a better choice than Corey Lewandowski. And you know what? If he decides to get in, Jeanne Shaheen's gonna kick his butt. I got no doubt about it, folks. You know, in politics, there are workhorses and show horses. Jeanne Shaheen has been a workhorse her entire career. You know that here in New Hampshire. She is a trailblazer, the first woman in United States history to be both a governor and then a United States senator. The first woman in history. She has spent her entire career, as you know, fighting for you, fighting for good paying jobs, fighting to expand access to health care. And I don't say this as someone who was simply a spectator. I say this as your former labor secretary. When I got into the Labor Department, there were only 2 states in the country that didn't have a Job Corps center. Job Corps centers are critical to the success of young people who are fighting to expand opportunity for themselves. Who led the effort to make sure the Job Corps Center was built? Jeanne Shaheen. That's what she did. She was honest. She was fighting for it, and she'll never forget about it. What did Trump try to do? Cut funding for Job Corps. What is Shaheen doing? She is fighting for people. That's what she's about, folks. So we got a lot of work to do. But you know what, folks? I come to you with unrelenting confidence because her record is clear. Her North Star is you. It's not the pharmaceutical industry like Lewandowski. She understands that we have to work hard. And here's one more thing, and this is important, folks. One thing that's going to be different about Jeanne Shaheen in 2019 is she will be part of the United States Senate majority for the Democratic Party. Because we're winning races all over the country. We're going to take seats in Colorado, in North Carolina, in Arizona, in Maine, in Iowa, and elsewhere. And Jeanne Shaheen, I predict you will not simply be calling her Senator Shaheen, you will be calling her Chairperson Shaheen when she takes over important committees. That's what she's about, folks. So we got a lot of work to do here, and we're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done together because we are your partner. Now, folks, you're going to hear from all the presidential candidates today, and you know what? We have such an incredible field of candidates, the most diverse field of candidates in American history. That's who we are as a party. It's a deep bench. And our diversity will always be our greatest strength. And as we listen to our candidates, as we move forward, and we got 423 days till the weekend, 423 days till the most important election of our lifetime. As you listen to the candidates today, keep in mind this: what unites us far exceeds what our differences are. As Raymond correctly pointed out, every single candidate for president believes that health care is a right for all and not a privilege for a few. Every single candidate for president understands that if you have diabetes or some other pre-existing condition, you should keep your health care. Every single candidate on the Democratic side for president understands that you shouldn't have to choose between insulin and rent. You should take on the pharmaceutical industry, not go in bed with the pharmaceutical industry. Every single candidate for president understands that one good job should be enough. And if you work a full-time job, you ought to be able to feed your family. Every single Democratic candidate for president understands that when women succeed, America succeeds. Every single Democratic candidate for president understands that when the labor movement succeeds, the middle class succeeds. Thank you to the labor movement for bringing us the middle class. Thank you. Every single Democratic candidate for president understands that we don't put children in cages and remove them from their parents. We understand as Democrats that we can be a nation of laws and a nation of men and women. Every single candidate for president understands the imperative of combating climate change. And you know, folks, I watched this president in the aftermath of this hurricane, and I can't help but think, rather than focusing in on imaginary victims of the hurricane in Alabama, he ought to help the real victims in Florida and the Carolinas. He ought to focus. If he focused half as much time on helping the people of Puerto Rico rebuild as he's focused on this Alabama charade, we would be much better off. And every single Democratic candidate for president understands that. Every single candidate for president understands that our democracy is on the ballot. Hurricane Donald is a Category 5 hurricane. Democracy is at the eye of that hurricane, and it's on the ballot in 423 days. Every single candidate for president understands that we should make it easier for people to vote, not harder for people to vote. You know, and as someone who enforced voting rights laws in the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, as I was watching him manipulate that map of Alabama, I couldn't help but notice that this isn't the first time he's tried to manipulate maps for partisan advantage. We see it in the voting context. We see it elsewhere. Every single candidate for president understands, my friends, that civil rights is the unfinished business of America, that our Native American brothers and sisters deserve to be treated with dignity. People with disabilities deserve to be treated with dignity. No matter who you are, who you love, who you worship, you should be judged by the content of your character and nothing else. That's who we are as a Democratic Party. That's who we are as a nation. And every single candidate for president shares those values and will fight for those values. And we will do it everywhere, in every corner of this world, every corner of this country. That's what we're about as a Democratic Party. And when we do it here, we do it everywhere. And I leave you with this because you're going to hear from everyone today. We were in San Francisco recently for a DNC meeting, and we heard from so many of the candidates. And we also heard from Reverend Barber, one of my favorite leaders in America. He is a modern-day Martin Luther King. He is a moral beacon. He pointed out that we are at a moral fork in the road in our nation. He pointed out that there are 140 million people living in poverty. And the Democratic Party is the party that understands that we are judged by how we treat the least of us. And we will continue to make sure that we lift up the least of us. And what he also said, which was so critically important, and I quote, "We have to turn to each other, not at each other." Our unity, my friends, is our greatest strength. It is our greatest ally. It is what won us the elections in 2018 at scale. When we're working together, when we're coming together, when we understand that all those values that I talked about are the values of the Democratic Party, that is how we succeed. There are many candidates. I hope you'll fall in love with one. I predict you'll fall in love with many. Fall in love with many, and then when we get the nominee, go speed date. Date multiple candidates. You can do that. But folks, when we have our nominee, remember, in order to govern, we must first win. And in order to win, we are at our best when we are united. And we will be united. We will work together. We will bend the arc of justice together. Let us make sure we do that together. And remember this, as you work every single day, because this is what I do every single day. I ask myself the following question: am I spending 100% of my time on defeating this president and electing Democrats up and down the ticket? 98% ain't enough. That's what we have to do. And remember what this president said when he came to New Hampshire just a few weeks ago. He said, and I quote, "You have no choice but to vote for me." Well, Mr. President, I got some news for you. The motto of this great state is live free or die. And in 423 days, we're going to show him that he has no choice but to pack his bags and get his ass out of the White House. Let's win. Let's move forward. Let's elect Jeanne Shaheen. Let's elect Democrats up and down the ticket, and let's do it together. Thank you very much.